co-founder of TestGorilla, and a big fan of skills-based hiring. So really excited to spend another 30 minutes with you here. Bit of a fireside chat format. As I've told you, like in one of the prep calls we had, I'm a big fan of your videos always, and I see you entering, talking with a lot of people, a lot of big corporates also, like some top tier companies. And I'm just curious, like in your work, like in talking with these kind of companies, what do you think is the actual experience of doing work, and how is it changing because of AI versus a couple of years ago?
I think it really depends. I've been into companies where AI has changed everything, like AI first, AI native companies. There's a lot of HR tech that was very early on this. But I think in many big legacy companies, AI hasn't changed work that much. You'll have people having meetings recorded, you'll have documents being summarized, but it's very much individual work. And I think the big shift is where the AI, the shift to AI becomes a team or organization wide thing. And that is how I would characterize actually the difference between a lot of legacy companies and a lot of tech and AI native startups.
Interesting. Yeah, nice. Yeah, I think I recognize what you're saying there. Just in our own company, very much. I briefly alluded to it in my opening, but I think at TestGorilla at least we see a massive difference compared to a few years ago, where it really was very focused in terms of the internal workings, right, and using AI. It was very focused on just piloting and just doing some exciting stuff, right? A lot of excitement also in the team. And I think now the shift is really to, like, I think what you were saying, like to really workflow redesign, right? Where you really kind of, okay, how can we use AI structurally to do things differently, right? And while making the humans still accountable. Yeah, so very very exciting.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are still stuck in that pilot. So a tech CEO said to me recently that 2025 was the year of pilot purgatory for a lot of old-fashioned businesses. And I think many haven't come off that, but you obviously have, Wouter. Do you use AI for everything?
Not everything, but I would love people to use it for everything. So we're definitely, yeah, stimulating and hopefully aspiring people in our own company to use it for everything. And I think we really see an acceleration of the adoption in our company across departments. It's no longer just the engineers; it's really in every department now, and they're seeing real results. I think that's a very big the difference, right? People are really more focused on kind of outcomes for when using AI. So either speed or quality or whatever it might be, right? Less redundant or like a repetitive work, right? It might be in their self-interest, and that's a big shift. And I think it's very how do you call it? Contagious as well, right? If you see some colleagues doing like, oh my God, how did you do this? Like, why are you? This takes you 1 hour less a day now. But can you help me with this? So that's really kind of happening at our company. And I think to be fair, also we in the beginning it was if you have the carrot and the stick a little bit, right? In the beginning it was more carrot, like, oh, look at these cool tools, and here you have some budget, and please jump on these tools, right? That was kind of our management style, you could say. But now we also introduce the stick a little bit. That sounds a bit nasty, but like it's really part of their performance reviews, right? So like we have a company behaviors. It's the half 50% of your performance review is based on the company behaviors, and in all these behaviors, AI is now tied in for every job role. So yeah, you're judged on how you're automating and using AI also. It's not only just nice to have, it's also, hey, we really expect you to do this, otherwise you have a problem. So that's also a big change, I think.
I'm really interested. So when you talk about how you use AI, are you measuring productivity gains or perhaps more time for imaginative or innovative thinking? How is that working out?
Yes and no. So I think yeah, I would love to say yes. We measure it all. That's not the reality, right? So I think it's often coming from a hypothesis of like, hey, we could do this and have instant feedback for our sales team, or we could do this and spend 1 hour less on repetitive task in people and culture, or wherever it may be in the company, right? So it often starts with the hypothesis that we then start measuring. And we on a individual job level, we have defined, hey, this is what we expect for you, like to on your level, this kind of automations or this kind of there's some expectation there, but not all the outcomes are 100% measurable just yet, right? So that's really a work in progress.
No. And just for people listening, what would you say? I hear about AI readiness all the time. Leaders talk to me about their teams being AI ready. Is there a special, it's become a bit of a jargon. How can you tell if a team is AI ready?
Yeah, interesting. Is that I personally think we that AI ready is like last Tuesday already, in the sense that like everyone is ready, but like I'm not really interested in hiring AI ready talent. I want AI fluent talent. I want people,
Right.
and what I mean with that, I want people who hit the ground running, right? I don't see myself as or Udesquilla as a university, right? Yes, we train our people, but we come here also to add value, right? So we want people who are already AI fluent, not just AI ready. I'm ready for it. Train me. Yeah, sorry, but we don't have time for that. That's yes, we'll train you, but people who already have some fluency there. And I think that that fluency I talked a little bit about in the opening as well. I think we it's not magic, right? It's observable skills that make people AI fluent. So it is like agility. How do you call it? Just learning ability and digital ability, right? It's system thinking, problem solving, it's ethical judgment. So it's a whole bunch of things that make up that AI fluency. So I think it's not, it sounds initially a little bit magic, like, ooh, AI fluent, but actually you can break it down in stuff that you can really test for and that you can measure, in my
So
experience.
when I'm talking about it, or people generally are talking about it, we have to be really careful about the difference between AI ready and AI fluent. There is quite a big difference there, isn't there?
Yeah. Well, how would you define it, actually? I'm curious.
Well,
How?
I don't know. I hadn't thought about it before. I think because so many people just say AI ready, and
Yeah.
I think this is real, what you're saying is of course much more important because
Yeah.
that's how you're hiring. You're hiring your people presumably the
Yeah.
TestGorilla way, but more widely in the world, maybe hiring managers are looking for the wrong things.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think indeed, if you do a survey, maybe more people will talk about AI ready. But I think the moment you are becoming more AI first, as our own organization, many of our customers are becoming, you actually realize, hey, I'm not looking for the AI ready person. I really look for someone who's fluent, who is already who has the right skills and uh, abilities, etc. Right, ethical judgment already, right? You want them to be fluent. You want them to hit the ground running, like add value immediately, jump on the automation, know which tools to use, which not to use. So I think ready is a step before that. Yeah, almost everyone's ready for it, but would you hire them? No, thank you very much. I will take the AI fluent person. So I think
Yeah.
that's it. That is a shift. Yeah.
I don't think I'm fluent. I'm definitely on the, I don't know. Is there an intermediate place between ready and fluent? Kind of learning, I don't know, curious learner.
Yeah, I think, and that's, yeah, probably, yeah. But that's good, not good enough, probably. If you're a hiring manager,
I
you're
wouldn't
like,
get a job
good
at
luck when
TestGorilla.
you're ready, when you're done, come back, in my opinion.
So,
Uh,
how does so I talked a little bit about the over reliance on graduate recruitment. How, in a skills first world, how can a hiring manager see these fluent skills in a candidate without relying on those old signals?
um, So it's a mix of things that they would look for, right? So you would indeed, I think in the past, right? In the past, I'm referring to it 20 months ago, uh, you would probably look more for hard skills relatively, right? Like, hey, maybe even like the ChatGPT test or something we offer, like stuff like that. I think that's as these tools events advance so quickly, you're looking more for other types of skills, right? Like the learning ability or cognitive ability, problem solving, system thinking, those kind of things, the ethical judgment, right? And these are all one by one are things that you can actually test for and measure, right, with different assessment products. So that's really changing, I think. So it is quite human skills, I think, and a little bit less hard kind of knowledge stuff to kind of say it like that. And I think another very exciting thing now is that you can use AI also to evaluate, right, in a really structured, fair way. That's really for me, it's like very one of the most exciting things. Like with TestGorilla, our mission is to democratize opportunity for everyone, right? You get those talent assessments that we our product, and you give everyone a fair chance. And I think AI is really kind of supercharged that. So now you can have use AI to kind of set scoring criteria on AI video questions or whatever, right? You can then make sure that every candidate gets evaluated against those structured criteria, right? In a really fair way, in a really explainable way. Hey, it's a 4 out of 5 because of this and these reasons, with always a human in the loop who can override it. So it really scales that kind of approach, right? Everyone can all of a sudden get a very fair chance to show their skills. So those are really exciting things, I think, about the new yeah, ways of working and how AI can help you find great talent.
There's a great question here. Well, not question, comment from Renata Pace to everyone. I think of myself as fluent. How do I know I am? Are there ways of certifying it? If even if you're not looking for a job, can we just describe self-describe as fluent?
I think you can definitely self-describe as fluent, but with tools like TestGorilla, we will assess if that's really the case.
So, right, yes, you have to do some TestGorilla tests. So
Yeah,
you
I think
talked a little bit there, Wouter, about creativity, and I mentioned it. Whenever I go out and talk to CEOs, what they're interested in, or they say they're interested in, is people who are creative thinkers, who are using AI in smart ways, but have retained that analytical, curious ability.
yeah.
How, as AI gets smarter and smarter, do you think this is going to get more important? I hope so, but I'm still on the fence.
I think so too. Yeah, I think that as the AI tools become better, the more value basically the humans become to direct them, right? And the more the human skills really matter, like the judgment, creativity, resilience, actually collaboration, not system thinking, even empathy. Like so, I think yes, I would say that these human skills, if I may, like they are will matter maybe even more. And definitely, if you are managing as a human, like a ton of agents, which is really happening as we
Yeah.
speak, you
Yes.
better want to hire a really good human there. Like that's another thing. So the value of that human goes up in my
So are you seeing that companies are really looking for those qualities, when they come to you? Are they really thinking about creativity?
Yeah, yes and no. To be actually today, I had a conversation with our sales leader. She said like she had done fractional work before. She's actually a speaker later today. She said like, "Hey, TestGorilla is probably in the top 1%, relatively speaking. So a lot of companies are in terms of AI adoption in our own culture, right? So a lot of companies are maybe not thinking about this enough. I would say is the honest answer. A lot of the modern techie companies are definitely thinking about this, right? So we see kind of a difference the difference in the market there, right? Some really leading companies here, and then people that are just following and are still catching up on what it means to hire in an AI in the AI era.
And do you think in a year's time, if we came back, things would be very different? How fast do you think this is going to go? Because everyone's concerned at the moment about things like job losses, agents taking jobs.
Yeah.
When do you think there'll be a resurgence of value in the human?
I think yeah, things are moving very fast. So probably in a year from now, I think yeah, that will be more common. We saw a similar evolution, I would say, with skills-based hiring, right? Like when we started, like, TestGorilla was founded in 2020, so that's 6 years ago, right? Skills-based hiring was not such a big thing. Like it was like,
No.
in fact, like we started the state of skills-based hiring, and we had to pick a term. We picked that term, so that was not very obvious that that would be the right term. Look how fast that changed. Like in every year we measure this, every year more companies are jumping on the bandwagon, so to say. And I think this with AI, it's so obvious that if you want to build a winning team in the future, you need AI fluent talent. So that I think that's spreading very, very fast. And then the type of skills you're looking for, like people are getting more knowledgeable and interested in cracking this very fast. So I think right now, if I look at many of our customers in their JDs, and that's also a stat I shared, right? Like 70% or something, or 90, was it 95% is looking for AI skills somehow, right? But the problem is they don't really know how, right? So you will see most JDs for white collar jobs who have something they need to be able to work with automation or LLMs or something like that, some catchword. But then they don't really know how to really measure that, right? How to look for those skills. And I think that's changing very much. And I think we with TestGorilla and other companies will be able to help there, right? To help companies.
Yeah, no, it's changing all the time. There's an interesting point here. Luciana Diaz in the comments. I find curious on the one side, it said leaders are valuing AI skills over experience, but we also hear about judgment, systems thinking, analytical ability. And these are things that require experience. I mean, I don't think those two things are mutually exclusive. Well, I think we gain those experience alongside the skills, surely.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think they're mutually exclusive, right? You can have both. I actually had a question also for you because I heard you talk about the diamond shape in hiring. I've also heard different theories, right? Where you have like a lot of junior people and no more middle managers, and then like a lot of people at the top. So how do you look at this? Like, what's your perspective on that?
So I think at the moment we're in danger. I think this diamond shaped thing is uh, a big potentially going to be a problem if we look at entry level graduate
Yeah,
hiring. particularly in the UK and US, haven't got the European figures, it's very, it's dropping massively. And I
Yeah,
think a lot of companies have frozen hiring actually because of their own sort of freeze about AI. Um, they don't know how much AI is going to cost. They're not very confident with the rollout, and they're not sure how many graduates they're going to need. But I think that's really short-sighted because of this issue, because if they don't build their own pipeline, they're going to have to hire up 5 years
right.
down the line, and that's much more expensive. Surely, you growing your own is better. But I
Yeah.
don't know, you're right. The agents may come, it may be that there's many fewer people needed overall. It may be that the number of people going to university is going to drop dramatically over the next 5 to 10 years. And I think that's very likely. I mean, I don't know whether you have any particular views on how or where one enters the job market, but things like apprenticeships are becoming a much hotter topic. I mean, I don't know what percentage of people are. Do you think the whole graduate thing is going to change immensely, Wouter, over the next few years?
Yeah, it's a hard one. I don't know. I think I mean, the nature of work is probably changing. At the same time, we're also looking at these younger generations who are growing up with this, right? Who are growing up with these tools, or AI fluent from the start. So, like for example, that statistic that I shared earlier, years of experience is becoming less important. So that's a good thing for people that are entering the job market, right? If you show your skills, it doesn't matter. I really don't care as a hiring manager if people are 25 or 45. But actually, I might catch a small bias in myself, like as the younger person might be more AI fluent. Uh, so I don't know. So it's maybe the traditional kind of system is definitely changing, but I think it's also creating a lot of new opportunities and a lot of new roles, right? If I look at our, let's say, our marketing department, right, just to give an example, I think the job roles that you will have in our marketing department will be 80% different, literally, without exaggeration, compared to 4 years
Wow.
ago. So like it's very different. It's much more, it's becoming more technical, right? So you have marketing engineers, people working with different systems. Like it's very different. But also creating huge demand for these more technical uh,
Yeah.
um, people, let's say, in fields that were maybe were less technical. Like I even heard like a talent engineer or people and culture engineer as a new role. Like, yeah, that makes so much sense, right? You want someone who joins the people and culture department and then use engineering to tie up all these different tools to automate, have agents that work at service sourcing, agents that work at onboarding processes. So it's you get a lot of opportunities in the job market, I think, as well.
Yeah. What's your advice to people, who are maybe not looking for a job right now, but should one be doing side hustles, training, even if it's not in your core job at the moment, how can people become more AI fluent?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is just do it, right? That's what I also see in our own company. If you just roll up your sleeves and just try it, right? It's fine if it fails, right? But just
Yeah.
try it because you can take courses and whatever. Like, but it will never be better than just doing it, right? Just go to N8N. Like N8N is like a tool. I don't want to promote other people's tool, but it's really great, like to help organize workflow automation. I think 50 people, or we have 130 people, 135 people in the company. About 50 people are now using that, like to automate their workflows just by just doing it. And these were not many of them were not technical people, but they're just doing it and getting experience. And I think that's adding a lot of value for them at TestGorilla for us, but also for
Yeah.
their future careers outside TestGorilla, right? It's just
Yeah, I mean, even in the last few weeks, Anthropic's new tools, for example, have really changed an enormous amount in terms of what people can, vibe code essentially.
right.
So yeah, I think even if we'd been talking 2 months ago, things would have been different. So
And what about you, Isabel? Like, how is it changing? Are you using
Oh,
it?
well,
Are
I haven't
people
got to the
testing?
vibe coding yet, but it has changed my job. So, like, I broke my arm at Christmas, and I've been able to carry out. I mean, I did take some time off, but, it's helped me enormously. I record meetings. The biggest single shift in my job is that AI will transcribe my interviews. I
Yeah,
mean,
nice.
transcription used to be a huge, very time-consuming task for journalists. And that has just been a game changer. So just very small things like that. I wouldn't say that AI is my thought partner yet. Obviously, words are our business, so we don't want the AI to write our stuff for us.
Yeah,
But I think that's probably a conversation for the next few years for us here at the FT. But I wanted
nice.
to ask you, one of the things that people always want to ask me about is about this, the recruitment process where you've got recruiters AI meeting candidates AI. It's almost like we're at this very weird stage. You know, I know not TestGorilla, but a lot of employers it's just sort of AI meets AI, and
Yeah.
nobody's really getting involved. You know, how is that developing? Do you think human connection is going to come back into the recruitment process?
Yeah, I definitely think so. So I think there is, yeah, I see that what you mean, right? A little bit of a war between
Yeah.
AI of the candidate versus the AI of the customer. I think there's some brilliant tools also for customers now to help handle volume, to reduce noise, surface hidden gems, right? That you might have actually missed by only looking at CVs or resumes in the past, and automate a lot of the repetitive work, which frees actually up human work, right? The human connection. So I think AI can do an amazing job in shortlisting candidates, and that's what we were building with TestGorilla also. But I really believe that AI shouldn't be the final judge. But you should always have the human in the loop, and also the human should make the final decision. I think I don't feel comfortable personally just hiring my team without any human in the loop. We wouldn't do that. So I think, yeah, I do think that human connection isn't removed. I think it will be there.
So you have a human interview as part of your process internally.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, you have to work together, right? So you want to know who's joining your team. So I
Right.
personally think it is really important.
I think that's sometimes been missing from the debate, hasn't it? Because as people, we hire people that we might like to work with. You know, we have hopefully a very fair hiring process, but
Yeah.
ultimately, as AI takes the strain, our colleagues become perhaps more important. Do you think that's likely in future?
Yeah, maybe. I think so. I mean it can help automate so much of the work of recruiters also, right? So it frees up time for other things. And I think human connection should be a big one there, right? Like so yeah.
So I talked a bit about hiring for skills, and you did too. But you know, just overall, at this minute, why do you think hiring for skills is so important? Do you think it's going to take off? I think it's going to take off exponentially in the next year or two. I mean, I'm sure you do too. But what, you know, is it to do with the economic situation? Is it to do with AI? Is it to do with fairness? Why skills?
I would say all of the above. I mean, there's just so much. All of these big trends are just fueling that move towards skills-based hiring, right? So we have seen that for a few years already before AI, right? We were like, hey, I want less bias in my process. I want to pick up on those hidden gems or hidden talents that I'm missing. If I only look for Harvard like on their CVs or making that as an example, right? And now with AI, like even more, like this the traditional way of hiring is just broken. Like I start laughing because just imagine if you would only use like the resumes and cover letters these days. Like yeah, that's impossible. Like how are you going to make a shortlist from based on that? Like you can think and have be confident, feel confident that you're making a good shortlist. But there's too much noise, right? It's
Yes.
really hard to pick out the people that look good on paper versus the people that are good. So I think yeah, you really see that big push towards skills-based hiring even more for a lot of those different
Mhm.
reasons.
Do you
Yeah.
think that skills-based hiring in, say, legacy companies or in-person companies is taking off more slowly? I would imagine it is. Because if you've got somebody in the comments here is saying, I am a recruiter in a remote first environment. We're all remote. I find myself looking for skills, how people introduce themselves, what motivates them. Oh, this
Yeah,
is Renata again. Well done. Take challenges and how they problem solve. Only then do I check for experience and then for degrees. So,
right.
do you think remote work is more open to that kind of approach?
Yeah, I think it is more open to it because you have a bigger problem. Like, it's so hard to compare resumes around the world, right? If you get a resume from UK, from India, and from Brazil, like good luck comparing the universities, and you have no clue, right? You're just like just staring at a piece of
Yeah.
paper. So yes, in remote, a lot of remote companies hire from many countries, right? So there, I think there's an additional reason to embrace skills-based hiring first. But I think in the end, the same arguments. Or the same reasons for skill-based hiring that you want to find the hidden gems, but you want to make it fair, that you want to make it efficient, like all these things that AI is screwing up the CVs and the cover letters, or at least the quality signals that you get from it. These are all valid arguments also for other companies, right? So yeah, I think, and then even in blue collar, like we are more focused on white collar roles with TestGorilla, but even in blue collar, you want to check people's skills right before you hire them, like for sure.
Yeah. And actually, these blue collar jobs are becoming much more meaningful actually, because people are starting to think they have to take on board automation and augmentation in exactly the same way
Yeah.
as people in more laptop or knowledge work roles. Oh, Wouter, I think we're about out of time, but this has been great. Is there one thing you wanted to say before we go?
Yeah, I do want to say a huge thank you, Isabel, for joining us. This was fantastic. Really great to have you here and have this chat with you. Thank you so much.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
All right, see everyone in the, so please log out and then through the lobby go to the next session. Thank you, everyone.
See you there.
Bye,
Bye.
Isabel.